Welcome to Coffee Rants with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan Arnold, your host. Tune in for what's really happening every Thursday. That's Thursday at 9 a.m. in Studio A on Revolution Radio. They keep us in fear to manipulate us. They want us ignorant so we're easier to enslave. They make us murder one another so they don't have to do it themselves. Only you can break their mind control by hearing the contradictions within your belief systems that allows you to accept their lies in the first place. The time has come for us to remember our divinity, who we really are, to return to what we're meant to be, a service to others, to humanity, to return to nature, and reclaim our birthright, that which is freedom. The truth will sound belligerent because it is in direct opposition to lies. So get angry, because anger is sacred. And together we can unite and rise. Rise from this darkness. Humanity, assemble. And good morning. Happy Thursday morning. Welcome to Coffee Rant with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan Arnold, your host. Today is October 10th, 2024. If you get value from any of the radio shows here on revolution.radio, please be sure to, if you have the extra, and you can, donate. That's what keeps this platform running for everybody. And I'm on every Thursday, Studio A, 9 o'clock, to rant. So I have so many things to talk about. Where do I even begin? My main topic of today is going to be about manipulations, manipulators, psyops, ops, special ops. Manipulations, of course, as I spoke last week, aren't always a bad thing. Sometimes they're designed to get you into a position, situation, or act in a certain way that a person wouldn't otherwise get you to do, which is why they try to manipulate. They don't think they can get what they want through a direct means of communication. 90% of these things are very nefarious. Let me just start off by saying that. They're very, 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 very nefarious. Because the truth is simple, and if they weren't trying to manipulate you for something, they would just directly ask you. Now, there's nuances involved. Maybe if they directly asked you, like I manipulated my daughters into eating some scrambled eggs one morning instead of cupcakes. That was not nefarious. I wanted them to have some protein instead of sugar. They're already, unfortunately, at the time, I'm sending them off to school, being indoctrinated by more manipulations. So we live in a society of manipulations and lies and gaslighting and egomaniacs. But I'm going to get to that. That's going to be my main topic today. I'll probably be reading from chapter 6 of Rise from Darkness. Who are they? I've got the notes. I don't have to make them. I've got books. I read out of the books. The thing that I'm noticing as I read out of the books, I'm adding more information to them because These books were written between 8 and 4 years ago. Both my books, Rise from Darkness and Violence and Ego. So I'll plug the books real quick. If you want to find out a little bit more about finding a good martial arts instructor and good self-defense, and the 3 different types of martial arts I discuss in this book, which are traditional martial arts, which all martial arts are based from, combat sport martial arts, which everyone's going nuts over right now, and it's being used as distraction-tainment. And then there is reality-based self-defense, which is the kind most military and police deal with. Read Violence and Ego. I talk about what to do if there is an active shooter, how to survive it, some of the things that you can do. I talk about the different types of conflicts. There's just so much stuff I can get into about violence and ego, understanding the principles of functional self-defense. It is available on Amazon. And then there's Rise from Darkness. Who are they? From spiritual bankruptcy to spiritually awakened. I'm an ex-cop turned spiritual anarchist. I hate to hyphenate words, but unfortunately, through misinformation and manipulation and disinformation, the world thinks that anarchy and anarchism is violent and chaos. Yet, for the last 4 years specifically, since 2020, 4.5 years, over 4.5 years, what have we had? The world's broken out in complete government. That's what we have. It's not anarchism. 2.5, 3 months ago, we had the electricity out here in a building with nearly 600 people in it, with an area that's congested with traffic lights and everything else. There was no police around. Everyone did the right thing while the electricity was out. The building I live in has almost every authenticity you could think of on this planet in this building. Everyone got along. That was a small example of anarchism at work. That's freedom, and meaning without archon, meaning ruler. So again, I'll talk about that on the show. Is anarchy simply means without a ruler. It doesn't mean without rules or laws. We follow rules and laws. We follow natural law, karmic law, not to initiate harm to other beings. So this week I'm going to talk about manipulators. Next week I'm going to actually talk about in depth the real true 7 deadly sins. This has been gone over by other people, but just in case you're a listener and you haven't heard it before, I want to be able to tell you what the true 7 deadly sins are and what they are not. And I'm going to talk about that next week. However, this week is going to be about manipulators. And I've unfortunately had quite a few ops ran against me, and they all have the same nuts and bolts to them. And you'll see the simplicity in that, which is the truth is usually by and large simple. When it becomes complicated, convoluted, or complex, they're trying to lie to you. Okay. And that should sound familiar to anyone listening, because that's all they do to us on the news. I want to say to all my friends in Florida who've checked in with me today, they just survived an overnight hurricane. It dropped to a 3, then a 2, then a 1. And I'm very happy for that. There doesn't seem to be very many casualties. They were very well prepared for this. But you'll find yourself in debates when you know that there's technology that exists because you've researched. And no, I haven't read every single declassified document on CERN or HARP or any other weather augmentation or weather controlling devices. I'll still talk about it. That's part of having freedom of speech. I know it exists. Technology you wouldn't believe exists. And it doesn't take a whole lot of research to understand all the reverse engineered technology we have from extraterrestrials. Again, follow and go to Dr. Stephen Greer's work. Okay. He talks about how the Tic Tac back from 2017 wasn't actually being vehicled by extraterrestrials. It was by humans in reversed engineered technology. Oh my God, how can that exist? The same people who tell you that doesn't exist believe in a bearded man in the desert sky as God, when that's actually the devil. Okay, I hope I don't lose any of you Christians out there. There are some good tenets in all these religions. Okay, and if you follow the good tenets, you're living according to natural law. So if you have a good spiritual practice within whatever your religious belief is, I'm cool with you. Okay, but most of y'all don't. You live within these contradictions, and You look at authority as a religion when authority is false. It's an illusion. No human being has the authority to rule another. You look at politics as a religion. You belong to a religious cult when you belong to the religion of politics. It doesn't matter which side of the cult you're on. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Islam or Christian. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Demopublican. It's all religion. Okay? Dogmatic religion. They're ruling us and dividing us through these means, which are manipulations in and of themselves. Okay. So I was watching the news yesterday. Speaking of manipulators, mainstream news media on the storm. I had to make a little short and put it on YouTube overnight. It has like nearly 600 views. And I don't have a lot of followers, at least that, are actively showing that they're following. I think I have a lot of, I would say, lurkers, but not followers. This guy was reporting live from the storm, and the waves were huge behind him, just a huge storm. And the bushes next to him and the vegetation next to him just going nuts with the wind. It was like, how could this guy even be out there? Thank God he had a windbreaker on. And so there's all this rain and wind, and the waves are just huge and scary looking. This vegetation's going nuts, and he's like reporting live from it. And, the hurricane's landing, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. The hurricane happened, okay? They happen. But leave it to the news to like sensationalize stuff. Like, I'm watching this go on, and I'm looking at his coat. His coat's not even moving. It's moving with his body. It's not being blown around like a windbreaker would. There's not one drip of water dripping off his head or hat or anything like that. The dude was standing in front of a green screen. So if you want to see that short or that video, find my YouTube page, Spiritual Anarchist Daniel Arnold. It was a short that I uploaded. It just speaks to how the media will try to manipulate your perceptions. They will try to manipulate your perceptions, and they want to put you in a state of fear. When you're in a state of fear, you normally don't respond, you react. And if they can keep you backpedaling and reacting, okay, then they can own you. They can get you to do what you want. You're very easy to control when you're in fear. I worked around a lot of dark psychiatrists and psychologists right from the fountain, the source on what they did. And that brings me, I'm going to be talking about manipulations today, and that brings me to a very important point. I've had people say, oh, we got so many, Facebook psychologists and YouTube psychologists, internet psychologists. Where'd you get your psychology degree from, Dan? Where did you get it? Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my morning coffee because I can feel myself getting pissed off. I would like to say to anyone who says that, go to Washington, D.C. today in our year of not my Lord, 2024. Every single politician has one of those indoctrination certificates. Every politician in D.C. has a degree. How's that working out for us so far? How's it working out for us so far? So, how you get a degree is you study, you read, you go and listen to people who know more than you. You attend conferences. In my case, I've gone to conferences. And there's people out there who would consider, there's certain people out there, hey, man, these are our peers wanting freedom. I have no problem. I'm not going to mention names. I don't have to mention names every single show, but I have no problem saying, no, that person is definitely not my peer. They're my better. They taught me and they still know more. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get out and talk and know and say what I know, which brings me to another phenomenon that people try to do. When they're at a certain level, they don't want anyone else. It's the 49th law of power. They don't want anyone else coming up behind them. And you see this in police work, and I've seen it in the freedom community where people start talking about others. The problem with the freedom community and people in the freedom community is blah, 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 blah. They should keep their mouth shut and blah, 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 blah. No, it's the freedom community. When you have freedom, you talk and you speak. Okay. Should you be somewhat studied on what you're speaking about? Yeah, but other people have a right to speak. Okay, when I hear, I've heard this a million times, spiritual gurus and spiritual teachers, and I'll hear them say the problem with the spiritual community, and that usually turns me right off. Okay, because if you're a truly spiritual person, you're not going to be out there phallically measuring your spirituality against anyone else's. Uh, that's just simply people trying to protect a paycheck. Okay, it's a lot easier to try to pull someone else down because gravity's on your side than it is to grab onto that rope and pull yourself up and climb. So in law enforcement, even amongst the good people in law enforcement, the ones who won the deep state war in the 1980s, a lot of them are still fighting for promotions. And what I've seen on every level, especially as I got higher up into the federal government, is when there was a promotion coming and a Game of Thrones would start within that department, they would try to pull others and bring others down instead of elevating themselves. Okay. I'm seeing this in, the freedom community subculture and spiritual subculture, which really should overlap, because if you're truly spiritual, you know that freedom is your birthright. You know that you're sovereign upon birth. You know that you don't have to worry about the amendments or the Constitution, because you don't need to sign this contract of another human being telling you what your rights are, because you already know them under nature's creator, under God with a capital G. So that's just one of the things I've been hearing. I just think it's bullshit. We need to have, community. We need to unite. The evil pieces of shit that are running this world, okay, the people in upper government that are reporting to something that's not human, they all know, hey, we're messed up and we hate each other, but we're working together on this. We're definitely full of hate. We're messed up. We get it, but we're working together on this. Where you've got good people who really are good people not working together, fighting one another because of ego and because of manipulations, which starts to bring me to, in life, okay, we have to come to a principled decision on what our principles are, right? We have to come to a decision on what are we a yes for and what are we a no for. And I'm more about what are you a no for. What you're a yes for is up to you if you're not initiating harm to someone else. And as long as you're not initiating harm or stealing, what you're a yes for is completely up to you in every way. Every way. Whatever you and another adult consent and agree to, and it's not initiating harm, it's okay. So I don't believe in any type of shaming that I see going on, sexual shaming of that type with our puppeticians. I've said this on other podcasts. Just because narcissistic, sociopathic psychos enjoy sex too doesn't mean it shouldn't even be an ancillary topic. The topic should be, why are we allowing ourselves to remain enslaved? Why is the world going through this? Okay, there's a reason why. People want to fight and debate over, is the weather being manipulated down there? I believe it is, but it doesn't matter. That's the low-hanging fruit. Tactically, let's take a look at it. Florida's been hit by 2, probably will be hit by another one. The weather stayed stronger over land than it ever has before to completely flood South and North Carolina. Simultaneously, there's a big chemical plant, that explodes, like the 120th one in our country. This one exploded in Georgia. And now those people in Georgia have to stay inside, because if they go outside and breathe, they can die. There were over 90 plants, processing plants, food processing plants, chemical plants, trains that derailed and exploded last year. Instead of arguing about it's the government letting it happen, it's the government doing it, let's just look at the fact it's happened. Okay. So for all you coincidental theorists out there, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, because no, let's just look at the facts. These are the facts. These are the things that have happened. Okay. The boat hitting the bridge this past year, Baltimore. So what's going on in our region is traveling routes have been cut off and limited. South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia are all states that have heavy military presence, heavy military bases in our country. Okay. We may have a very cold winter up here in the Northeast. People may want to try to travel down south to get warmer. Well, that's going to be harder now because a lot of routes have been cut off. So it's kind of start taking a look at what's going on and what's the reason why it's happening. It's because of manipulations. So getting back to what you're a yes for, that can change. You could turn the yes into a no. Again, if you're a yes for anything that doesn't initiate harm to someone else, and go for it. I'm more interested in what are you a no for? Because this is when you draw a line under something and put it behind you. You draw a line under it, and you're a no for it no matter what. Okay. I'm a no for psyops. I'm a no for special ops. I'm a no for ops. I'm a no for manipulations. Even if the manipulation's being done in a manner to help me in a way, to help others, or to do whatever. Okay. So any higher beings out there, if you have to do contrived circumstances, contrivialities, that's a word I made up. I like to make up my own words. Human-driven synchronicities. I recognize these things. Most people on a subconscious level, at the very least, do. They don't know how to express it. I recognize these things. If you have to do those to me and you don't think I'm going to notice it, then I'm obviously not the guy for the job. You need somebody dumber. Okay? So I just thought I'll put that out there. I'm a no for being manipulated for any reason. I'm a no for psyops or any type of ops. Okay? That's on a personal level of what I'm a no for. I'll just walk away without giving any reason why, or I'll just shut my browser without even giving a reason. I don't owe an explanation to anybody about anything. When I know it's an op, I'm not going to mess with it. Now, that's just on a personal level because of what I've gone through. So I'm not going to let myself be manipulated or allow my intelligence to be insulted in any way, shape, or form. I had to let it be like that for a while to beat the people I beat. I won't do it no more. Those are the things on a personal level that I am an absolute no. Nada. Not happening. I laugh at it now. Now, on a big level, I'm a no for slavery. I'm a no for initiating harm to others. I'm a no for stealing. I'm a no for seeing those things in front of me happen without attempting to do something about those things. In this case, speak out. Everybody should be a no for slavery. Everybody should be a no for initiating harm or a no for stealing. We're a no for that. Everybody in the world needs to have those as their no's. Their personal, moral, no, I'm not having that. We're not having it. Which brings me to the victims in Palestine. I had to watch video. I watched some video of this little girl. You people who are driving this war are the evilest pieces of trash in the entire that ever existed. Quit following your master's orders. You're hurting kids. See, folks, we are just cattle to these beings. This isn't human driven. We're cattle to them. I'm getting off on a tangent. If I was on my podcast, I'd be dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb right now. So this is somewhat of a rant. But getting more, I guess you could say more clinically into spotting manipulators in your life who are usually predators. And I start getting into dealing with them in my book, Violence and Ego. And I just got more from a self-defense standpoint, self-preservation, self-protection. But we can see on the big scale of things that we're being manipulated in every way, shape, or form. But we got to start at the lowest level within our personal life. And I've had this, I've had this recently. You're going to have people do this to you. And you got to be careful. You got to know how to spot when you're being manipulated. You have to know how to spot these people who want to gaslight you, who want to make you doubt your reality. Okay. These are the people that are going to be guilt tripping, making you feel responsible for their emotions. Okay. They're going to always be playing the victim, always being the one who is wronged. Okay. If they're the one who's the victim and wrong, they feel righteous in their dysfunction. They feel righteous in these screwed up actions that they took. They will use future faking. Okay, so future faking is promising a future that never comes. I'm going to teach you this. Wait till I teach you that. Wait till I teach you. They want to create this allure. Future faking, triangulation. They use others to make you jealous. They use others to pass information on to you. They try to use others and turn others against you. Okay, when government ops are happening, they'll go to your family, they'll go to your friends, and they'll lie their asses off to enlist your aid. And you can look this up on your own. Okay, blame shifting. They'll turn the tables on you. They'll make you the problem. Sometimes it doesn't take two to tango. Sometimes you're merely reacting and responding to somebody, to some type of stimulus that you view as dangerous in some way. And most manipulations are, like I said, 90% of them aren't good. So when you decide to become a no for them, you just stick to being a no for them. I'm not even curious about them anymore. I used to actually be curious sometimes. Let's see where this is going. I don't even give a F about it. I'm not even curious anymore. Like, it's stupid with what's going on in the world. We're in the end game, folks. Don't even be curious about it. Okay. If you're in a relationship, sometimes withholding affection, they're using love as a weapon, or they'll use sexual relations, physical intimacy, contact as a weapon. They won't, give it to you. Minimizing your feelings and dismissing your reactions as overreacting. Obviously, you're overreacting as usual, always overreacting. They don't want to ever look at themselves. See, saying those words, hey, I was wrong, man. I'm sorry. Or hey, I was wrong. That won't happen again. I get it. I'm whatever. They can't do it. They can't look in the mirror. They're asleep. This is why the Satanists called all of us the dead. So be mindful of manipulative people who paint themselves as victims, blame others, and refuse to take any responsibility for their wrongdoing. Don't buy into their stories. They want to get people to show sympathy to them. They feed off of sympathy. These are emotional vampires. Okay. You got to put them out of your immediate life. Okay. You have to know what your no's are. Like I said before, I'm a no for manipulations. I'm a no for ops of any kind. I'm a no for contrived circumstances. I won't do it. I'm actually even a no for a long vetting process and anything. I know who I am, what I've done, and what I'm doing now currently. I had a martial arts school that I went to at one point in time. This instructor, this specific person, always thinks that the spies are being sent in to spy on their school. They think they're being dojo stormed or something. I was tested almost 4 times. You want to become part of a community someplace. And I realized, why am I allowing this to happen? I ended up just leaving. Somebody who has to test you 2-3 times, to test your ethical behavior, your morals, and they're constantly testing you. They've got a mental problem. They're mentally ill. Get away from them. So I'm even a no for long vetting processes. I won't do it. I literally will tell someone to stick it up their ass and I'm gone, and not to constantly use profanity, but I'm allowed to say that word. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from this book. And the reason why it's important to know what manipulations are is we got manipulations happening on a mass scale, not just in our private lives, but it's happening on a mass scale. They're gaslighting everybody. Everyone's brainwashed into fighting over the low-hanging fruit instead of really just taking a look at what's really happening. And the destabilization of this country and the division of this country is what these evil people want. So they keep fighting over, and within these contradictions, to have you living within these contradictions, and you don't even know what the hell you want or what your principles are. What are you a no for? You should be a no for children being thrown on bayonets. You should be a no for watching little 3-year-old girls that they can't even show the entire video because their legs almost blown off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say this too while I'm at it. To all the Bible thumpers out there who say the book of Revelation spoke of this, the book of Revelations has spoke of this. Folks, the book of Revelations was given to people, okay, by extraterrestrials who are still alive today. They're long lived, just like we're supposed to be. Our T cells should regenerate forever, but they don't because of the way they mess with us. They're making these things happen. It's not hard to do. I can create circumstances today on Thursday, and I can make sure that these plans I have for Saturday are going to take place. Now imagine if you live for millions of years. Okay, I'm throwing very solid theories at you based on study. Read Slave Species of the Gods. And that's a start into it. And then you start diving deeper into these holes and you start realizing some of the truth of things. You start realizing that what you have read in the Bible and the Quran are stories that have been told and retold and retold and retold many, many times over the thousands and thousands of years of our history to get us believing in something. Because if we believe that there's a better life and that these things are happening and Jesus is coming back to save us, we won't take any action. It's the biggest stand down manipulation psyop in human history. That's what this country is dealing with, along with expert divide and conquer tactics. Okay, so I'm going to start dealing with manipulators. Okay, so for me, I'm going to be reading directly out of my book, and we'll see how far I get. For me to give any actionable advice on this chapter's topic or just mere information for the reader's consideration, I feel it is necessary to first cover the human ego. This is important because we must understand how our own egos allow us to fall prey to lies, propaganda, and manipulation, and the manipulation of selfish, self-centered, agenda-driven evil people in the first place. And I've already given I'm breaking for a second. I've already given my, not all manipulations are bad. Okay. But still, you get to a certain point where you have to decide if you're a no or yes for them, regardless of why they're being done. So, yes, I said evil. I'm continuing because evil does exist and it disguises itself with its feigned concern for your safety in mind by using the unholy righteousness of religion and government authority. And we have been indoctrinated into these things since birth to trust in. There are two kinds of manipulations I want to cover in this chapter. One, personal level manipulation using deceit of some kind for gain. And two, mass manipulations using propaganda for social engineering an entire population into whatever belief system that they believe will benefit them. At the end of the day, it's all about the destruction of free will. It is immoral, and it is a complete transgression against the natural laws that govern the universe. It is theft. I intend to cover this in the following chapter. Ego, self-victimization, gaslighting. They are never wrong. They lie. They are always agenda-driven. You will feel drained when they leave. That's the big sign, folks, that you're being manipulated. You're going to feel drained. They're energy vampires. Okay, you're going to feel drained at a soul level, even. They use people and love things. And like I said, it is a transgression against natural law. So ego. Our egos develop within weeks of our birth and will continue to get stronger our entire life. Ego is that special part of us that defines us as being separate from others, as well as unique from others. This may be a primary element that allows predators to view you as a resource for them because the ego is that insidious at times. The selfish part of the psyche that says it's all about me. Our ego is what jumps out and defends us when we feel attacked verbally or physically. The ego is neither innately bad nor good. It simply is. As I said in past shows, breaking, it is us. So we can't blame anything on our ego. Ego exists. It's the knowledge of self. That's what ego really is. And our egos are tools that either aid us or hinder us, depending on our control over them, our control over ourselves. Ego is that part of us when out of control makes us judge others and believe we are better than them. It separates us from our differences. It separates us for our differences, either perceived or real, rather than allowing us to celebrate our shared humanity. As I noted in chapter 5, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer referred to ego as edging God out. I've also heard it called edging goodness out. This was about allowing our egos to completely run the show. Man is not the ultimate power in this universe. God with a capital G is. Simply put, bad ego is ego gone rogue. An overinflated sense of self-importance that keeps people from being introspective and having any self-reflection or learning from someone else in their own field of study, for example. I've been a martial artist for a long time. Probably 90% of the 80% of the people, 75% of the people, I have no clue. And there's a large percentage of people I could teach martial arts to. That doesn't mean I can't learn from them simultaneously. And there's a whole bunch out there that could still teach me. That's my field of expertise. Yet I have enough humbleness in it because I've been punched in the face enough to, hey, I need to learn. I need to still learn, even at my age and how long I've been doing it. And that's how it should always be. And also something else, I started making podcasts. I had somebody call me a narcissist because I was speaking out with podcasts against what's going on in the world. No. Don't mistake confidence or trying to do something for humanity as being somebody who's got an overinflated sense of self. Okay. I personally, what was the terminology that was used? What was the an overinflated sense of grandeur. Okay. Now, many narcissists will have this. I would rather have an overinflated sense of grandeur and fail miserably than to settle for the mediocrity of a life that I hate and an existence that I hate. I understand there's things we can't control, but people who are miserable with themselves will never be happy with anyone else. These are the people who do the most emotional vampirism, the most manipulating, the most lying about events. They're the people that don't care about your feelings. Simply put, they're sociopathic, narcissistic psychos. All of them are in government, and there's a lot of them around your life. Okay, so how does the ego help us? In the right controlled amount, ego can push us to better ourselves. In anything we endeavor to do, it provides us with intrinsic motivation, a desire to improve ourselves because we want to. Good ego will help us develop a healthy pride in what we can create and how we can help teach others, how we might inspire those around us. Good ego helps you to recognize strengths, weaknesses, and limitations. Good ego is that part of your psyche that wants you to protect yourself by continuing to learn. Good ego is the judge that determines that something may not even really be worth fighting about, or if something has enough substance for you to make it worth debating about. But even more importantly, good ego from an awakened consciousness will understand when it is time to act, to make a stand for yourself and others who cannot. Good ego is what can lead you to success if you can truly stay thankful and be realistically humble and altruistic. The universe will reply to that. Okay. And I talked about this in the 49 Laws of Power. This next one is called false humility as bad ego. Okay. I would rather have somebody who's actually truly cocky. I would rather have a truly cocky MFer than a false humble person, because truly cocky people haven't caused the deaths of as many people as false humility does. Okay. Democide, false humility and democide go hand in hand. Just look at the world. Okay. So false humility is bad ego, especially regarding anything involving money or perceived physical prowess. Beware of anyone in your life who appears a little too humble. Very few people, myself included, but I am working on it, will truly be as humble as David Carradine's character Kane from the 1970s hit TV show Kung Fu. Let me stop for a second. Probably anybody who's like under the age of 35, I just lost you. You have to look. It was a show called Kung Fu. He was a Shaolin monk. It's a pretty cool show. All right. Acting overly humble or enlightened has always come across as disingenuous to me. None of us have it all figured out. And when we stop learning, we really stop living. This is particularly important as I have seen fairly public, well-known martial artists who come across as humble and very wise get all twisted up and bent out of shape if they can't convince some online troll to agree with them. Okay, again, even online, in real life, if I'm being trolled in some kind of way, I'm just bouncing. I ain't got time for it. I don't got time to fight the good guys. I did enough of that when I was a cop. I fought the good guys enough when I was a cop, or the supposed good guys. I'm not doing it no more. I'm a no for it. Understand this. Continuing. Okay, so these people exist and they will judge your work or writing or technique. Let them. This does not reinforce that we are, or this does go to reinforce that we are conditioned by our ego to be sometimes overly concerned with what others think of us or our work. It is normal, and none of us are immune to it. We're not, honestly. However, as self-defense instructors or anyone espousing anything about self-care, if we cannot handle people's opinions or criticisms, how will we react to someone's physical aggression? More importantly, how can we teach others to do so? Okay, this is important to talk about because I see a lot of people getting. I'm breaking from reading. It's important to talk about because I see a lot of people that they'll get really bent out of shape over the verbiage you use, and they like to play with game. They like to play word games because if they can control the grammar, they can control the narrative. But they'll get all bent out of shape over a word used that they don't like, but they're okay with babies being thrown on bayonets and having their legs blown off by governments that they worship. You are the most screwed up people in the world. I'm just letting you know. If I could turn the whole world against me, but it united the freaking world, I swear to God, I would. I seem to have a knack to bring out the earth and fire in people. I certainly have enough of it in myself. I'm working on air and water. I really am. And I'm definitely always working on the spiritual part of that 5-pointed star that Satanists invert on purpose. All right, so continuing. Non-physical threats from ego. This one is especially important as it relates to self-defense as well as self-care, without which you will be too distracted to see attacks of any kind coming. Predators, even those who do not predate in the physical sense, will many a times be able to read if someone has low self-esteem or low confidence, and they'll exploit it to their own agenda. Fear lays at the root cause of low self-esteem and low confidence. Paradoxically, they can also read if you have an abundance of confidence or a lot of pride in something, and they will use the same tactics to get what they want from you in either instance. They will feed your ego, telling you that you are the best they have ever seen at any given skill, making statements like not everyone is as gifted as you, or as seen recently in our world, 2020 and 2021 COVID-19, they will feed your fear. They're going to feed your confidence for the kill. I've seen this in combat sports. I've seen it in boxing gyms. I had to get beat up a couple times before I decided, hey, let me learn how to have some hands here. And in boxing gyms, sometimes they'll make you feel confident just to put you in a ring and feed you to somebody. That's, in my opinion, what just happened on with some pro fighters, where a well-known MMA champion decided to enter the boxing world, was carried for one of his fights and was knocked out like in the first or second round in the next fight. He was fed to them. Okay, so it's all manipulation. So as the future fear. Okay, so maybe they know they are not as skilled at you or something physical, and this fact may initially or it may internally bother them or their ego, or if they admit it, so they will endeavor to be your mental superior. All right. I see this in the martial arts. If they can't be your physical superior, they want to act like they're your tactical mental superior or some bullshit, right? I once had a friend who would not play me in a game of chess because he said it wouldn't be fair because he was mentally the equivalent to me as I was physically to him. This is all ego bullshit. We were drinking, by the way, too. I do that sometimes, okay? There's a meme running around on the starter pack for spirituality, and it's got these crystals and meditations and sound bowls and all this stuff. And then there's the advanced starter pack, or the advanced pack for spirituality, and it's a cigarette sitting in an ashtray. So you take that as you will. Although I'm not saying smoking is good for you, but anyway. So he didn't want to play me in chess. It wouldn't be fair. I told him it would not bother me if I lost, but he would still not play me. That was just making me want to play him in a game of chess even more, but he wouldn't play me. This kind of reminded me of those guys who would not spar because what they do is too deadly to spar with. They're not just, they're true martial artists who don't do full resistive training because their stuff's just too deadly. Good luck having timing and distancing in real life then, if you're not going to actually spar or actually grapple or roll or whatever. I'm not saying don't drill. But anyway, this is where both my books actually overlap, folks. So anyway, overall, this is what tipped me off to this kind of person I was dealing with. And he was a actual Satanist. That's the funny thing. He said, I used to be a Satanist, but now I'm an atheist. Now, this guy at the time when he said that, this was many years ago, I didn't know then what I know now. And I'm like, well, if you're a Satanist, you're just a really bad Christian because da 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 da. Satan is that pointy, eared guy with the tail and a pitchfork in the Bible. So you're actually just a bad Christian if you're a Satanist. God, was I wrong? I was so wrong. My God, was I wrong? Thank you to the people exposing this. Thank you to Mark Passio for putting all the information out there on this. And there's others, but Satanists aren't those people. Satanists aren't people who believe in this devil. He was laughing to himself, and rightfully so, when he said he was a Satanist, but now he's an atheist, because that's still being a Satanist. Anyway, all right, they may make comparisons about how much you and them are alike. They're trying to get some type of confluence with you. They will also apologize to you profusely for things you will think are completely ridiculous to them to be apologizing for. They may do this all while explaining the small slight towards you at great length and detail. Remember that old American Indian proverb, the truth has few words. They also will want to make you emotionally dependent on their praise. Beware of this. Also, every conversation with them will be agenda driven, usually detectable by an inordinate amount of questions on any given topic. They want to ask a lot of questions. Okay. They use rhetorical or leading questioning to hold you accountable later when needed. The goal is to make you appear hypocritical when or if it benefits them. For instance, I had a situation in which a former friend planned on trespassing upon my property. Before doing so, and before I knew this was his intent, he told a tale of a similar action in which the property owner threatened him. He wanted to persuade me into saying the previous property owner's threat was unjustified. I understood not to comment or not, or commit to an opinion on this because it would imply that I consent to the possible crime of trespassing. Okay. He later did trespass on my property, and I told him if he comes back, I'm going to defend my family. He never came back. But this is sometimes what they'll do so they can use it against you later. They also will speak like politicians, where you can never nail them down. So they could always say, well, that's not what I meant. That's not what I said, and that's not what I meant. This is what they do. This is how politicians manipulate you. The very fact that there is a job called political analyst, there should never be an analyst for things that are said by supposed leaders. They're not leaders, they're rulers. Okay? And this is the allure that former President Trump had on the masses. Keep in mind, he was an actor. WWE, lots of money in New York. People worship this guy. I have nothing bad to say, good or bad, about any of them. I don't like political theater. And that's all I see is political theater. But when he spoke, you knew exactly what he meant, and it put political analysts out of work. They knew that this is what the American people wanted from politicians finally. I don't think he ain't part of the show, folks. In my opinion, it's a show. They want to have a one world government officially. There is a population control and population coal agenda. Loneliness in both men and women is a pandemic all in itself. They don't want us having human connection. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so regardless if this is someone you know personally or a boss at work, it is a toxic situation and you need to leave. You can add the physical predator to this same category as this manipulative boss or someone you know personally in this instance, because in this regard, the main goal with you is similar: to play to your ego using either pride or fear to manipulate you into a position that they want you in so they can soften you up for the kill. For more information on this kind of violence, I highly recommend reading these two books: Who's Pulling Your Strings? How to Break the Cycle of Manipulation by Harriet B. Breaker, she's a PhD, and Nasty People: How to Stop Being Hurt by Them by Jay Carter, who's also a psychiatrist. All right, so overcoming ego. Overcoming ego. The most important step in controlling our egos is to stop relying on other people's perception of us to nourish how we view ourselves. Part of doing this means avoiding extrinsic motivation and proving ourselves only because someone else's opinion. This is hard to do because our egos will always be comparing us to others. Keep in mind, from a safety point of view, worrying about what others may think of you is what can get you into very dangerous situations. Simply because you don't want to offend someone you get bad vibes from. So that gut feeling you get, when the elevator opens and you don't want to offend somebody by not getting in the elevator, but you get in the elevator and they end up, mugging you. You didn't want to offend them. F them. To hell with them. Offend them. Who cares? It's your safety. Listen to your gut instincts. My gut instincts are right 95% of the time. I'm willing to be wrong 5% of the time. That's how important it is to me. Okay, so continuing. Simply because you didn't want to offend somebody, you get bad vibes. So remember this, your reputation, although important, is merely what others may think of you. It does not equate to your character, which is infinitely more important. Your ego is afraid of failure and will keep you safe from doing something because someone else may have already done something similar, like becoming a radio host, right? Or speaking out against the New World government. A New World Order, higher consciousness, I'd be all for it, but not a New World government where we're being ruled by one world government. Ego entrapment can spawn debilitating fears, fear of failure, fear of what others may think about you, or fear of the future, which can turn into anxiety. Anxiety can freeze you in place and keep you from taking important, valuable action. On one hand, we have failures in life that our egos will crush us for and steal all our confidence because of. This is something we must consciously control in that part of our ego by looking for any learning points from our failures. There's always something to learn from a failure. Introspection can help us overcome the pitfalls of ego. On the other hand, our ego, in victory, past or present, especially victory over another, may leave us feeling invincible, which can lead to overconfidence. Okay, it's called in law enforcement as a tactical instructor. It was called tombstone courage. A little bit too brave. Get yourself killed. So, some other approaches to overcoming your ego include taking up meditation or perhaps yoga. Both are good ways of training your higher brain to be mindful, that is, living in the moment without the lower left lizard brain's 4 F's. Your enemies and detractors are counting on you to stay distracted with those. If you physically train in the martial arts or pursue any athletic endeavor, beware of overtraining. I've done this before. This is not good for you either. Take up any endeavor that will humble you, and believe me, yoga will humble you if you have done it, if you've ever done it before. Especially with some of my instructors, I should give shout outs to, but y'all, and these are women who beat my behind in yoga. Oh my goodness. Now seek to learn from everything and conquer nothing. The only thing we should be conquering now is slavery. That's it. And conquering the fear keeping us from taking action to stop slavery. There is no need to conquer anyone unless you are defending yourself or loved ones. In that case, win at all costs, which is just why I said we need to conquer slavery. Going on 2 minutes left. Start and appreciate the talent and skill you see in others. I like to build people up and leave them in their power. Learn from them and never get jealous. Refrain from putting others down in any attempt to elevate yourself. I talked about this in the very beginning of this podcast, or I'm sorry, this radio show. Be consistent. All these ways of overcoming ego are easier said than done, but they are especially important in self-defense and care in general, as well as other aspects of our lives. Okay, so to recap here, and next week, I'll be starting right into self-victimization and gaslighting, which is going to be very important. But to recap what I've read so far, good ego can cause us to excel and improve ourselves. It is what makes us good at helping others, which leads to living an inspired life. Good ego can help us to be more introspective, thereby learning from our mistakes. Oh, God, it's taken me a few times. I'm stubborn. Simply put, our bad egos can cause us to write checks with our mouths that our asses cannot cash. Bad ego will keep us from learning and cause us to overestimate our abilities. Bad ego can cause us to make unwise decisions by staying in situations that do not behoove us because we are already invested a lot of time and money in a given situation. Bad ego can allow us to fall prey much easier to manipulators because they're going to use what they know about the human ego and human psychology to actually do what they do. Okay. I haven't started hearing music yet. I might read this first part. Here we go. Self-victimization is a tactical manipulation that is used to be viewed as the victim in any given situation and thereby validates their actions or their lack of. This comes from the inability for the manipulator to self-reflect. I'm sorry. It is a refusal to accept responsibility or the possibility that they may be wrong in any given situation. I have seen this used as a shame avoidance tactic for what really amounts to nothing more than a fear of self-perceived shame. When this tactic is used, you can be sure it was also used by them as a child to get out of trouble. Self-victimization needlessly gives away your power. All right, folks. Until next week, man. Have a good one and stay safe. Peace.